Welcome back to the Dimer Sports Betting Podcast. I am your host, Greg, joined by my co-host, Dave. Week 7 of the NFL is here, but we've got some takeaways from Week 6 and a lot more to take a look at. Dave, how has your week been, my friend?
Pretty good, if we're not counting sports in my fandoms anyway. I think you and I are both pretty down bad there. 2 pretty upset losses, and our team's eliminated as well. So, kind of turning the page towards strictly betting on sports, because now really my only major teams I root for are bad or out of it. So
yeah, at least we can be winners in the betting world if we're going to be losers in the fan world. 15 innings. I stayed up late. I thought I was propelling my team to victory, only to have my heart ripped out by the Seattle Mariners. But hey, what can you do? That team looks like a team of destiny right now.
Sure
like I said, we've got a lot to cover today. We're going to go through many of our favorite NFL segments that you've come to associate with this program. We'll give you an early look at our top Week 7 spread picks. We've got our waiver wire update for fantasy football as always. But first, let's take a look back at some things that we learned from Week 6.
The week that was.
What'd you learn, Dave?
Well, the underdogs barked big time. Top contenders go down. Bit of a wacky one. The final undefeated teams from last week both lose 2 in a row, so things are getting shaken up. Should be a pretty fun futures look for us on Thursday. Injuries just keep rolling in. Top stars can't seem to stop getting hurt, which is unfortunate. Seems to really be the wide receivers. Puka Nacua with an ankle injury. Egbuka with a hamstring injury. Calvin Ridley with a hamstring injury, though he probably wasn't, doing very much anyway. Garrett Wilson with a knee injury. Just a brutal year for some of these star wideouts in pretty big situations. But fortunately, we might have a few coming back this week, something I'm looking forward to breaking down on Thursday's episode when we've got a few more practice reports and stuff. CeeDee Lamb, Mike Evans looking like they are at least going to get in some limited practices. Rashee Rice back from suspension, shaking things up there. So definitely a lot to look forward to, despite some of the negative injuries and stuff that we've had going on. But got some big takeaways that you and I want to get through here. I'm going to start off with mine. It's a personal one. I know you got a personal one too, but the Cowboys may have become the easiest team to bet on this season. They have a bad defense, very good offense, which is pretty much a perfect combination if you're looking to profit on betting. Not so much if you want to enjoy watching your team week to week, but underdogs versus the Cowboys are 3-1 against the spread. They're 2-2 on the money line. Obviously, they're plus money because they're underdogs, so that's profit all the way around if you're just betting underdogs. You include the Cowboys as underdogs in their own games, 5-1 against the spread, as they've covered both against the Packers and the Eagles. Over 4-2, that's profit. If you're parlaying the underdog to cover and the over together, that's 3-3, because those would be plus money parlays. That's straight profit there. And of course, it is just prop city for both the Cowboys and their opposing defenses or offenses. Pickens touchdowns, Prescott's yards. He's thrown 3 touchdowns in the last 3 games. Opposing teams can score and move the ball at will. We saw Tito McMillan get 2 touchdowns, a guy who's on your radar this week, Greg.
Yep.
There's so much money to be made in Cowboys games here. We're going to get into this later in our picks, our spread picks, but I think they've got the biggest total they've seen so far coming up. So we'll be kind of curious to see how these trends continue when things change. But yeah, I mean, pretty much just a profit train, almost any angle you bet on or against this team.
Yeah, I know it's not exactly fun to talk about, as we alluded to at the top of the show, when it's your favorite team, Dave. But the simple, most fun, easy green light bet for me every single week has been whoever the best receiver is playing the Cowboys to find the end zone. It happens every single week. You think back to that Romeo Doubs game weeks ago where he had 3 touchdowns. There's big potential there, no matter who it is or who you're trying to target from a betting perspective. So hopefully it changes for the sake of your heart, but for the sake of my wallet and everyone else's, maybe it won't. My biggest takeaway here is broad at the top of this league, but I have our futures up on dimers.com here. And reminder, our futures model updates in the middle of the week. So we'll take you through the updates to the futures model on the second episode this week when we come back on Thursday. For now, I'm staring at the futures projections we looked at before week 6. We had the Bills, Eagles, Lions, Ravens, Chiefs, 49ers in that order as our 4 most likely Super Bowl champions. That group went 1-5 this week outright. It was the Kansas City Chiefs that got the win. Our top 4 most likely Super Bowl champions all went 0-4, including the Bills and the Eagles, both in like a back against the wall spot here where you wanted to see the resolve of a championship caliber team. Look, I don't know what that does to the futures market. I'm honestly so curious when we come back on Thursday what that update is going to look like, because I'd have to think you go back about a decade. It's very rare that you see the 4 best teams in the league all lose in the same week. However, it's been a consistent theme from previous conversations with futures with us on this program. Should we buy the Chiefs or not? This is a team that we've kind of sold coming into the season relative to some of those other contenders. Well, they're finally getting healthy right now. They certainly looked like the better side against Detroit. Rashee Rice is coming back, as you mentioned briefly. So I don't know. I'm going to wait and see what the model tells us to do. But at least it's a data point that the door is wide open for Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs again.
Yeah, I think we all kind of maybe saw this coming at least a couple of weeks ago. Then they had the letdown spot against the Jags, but they were right in there. They had the 99-yard interception return. So lots to take away there. The Chiefs certainly look like they are gaining all of their power at just the right time, with the rest of the division starting to show cracks. So, yep, so long parody. It is still the Chiefs world. My next takeaway, sort of similar, sticking with the Cowboys, but on the other side of the game, they were just victimized in, is Rico Dowdle. Is he a secret RB weapon, the best kept secret in the NFL, perhaps, or has just been the most perfect situation? He did have 2 pretty bad defenses that he got to tee off against over the past 2 weeks. Essentially got 100% of the workload with Chuba Hubbard out. Really can't get any better situation than that. But after basically just those 2 games, he's 5th on the season in rushing yards. But this has got to be a split when Hubbard is back. They paid him too much money to just not play him. However, there's a very good chance he's going to become the 1B in this offense pretty much right away. If you look at our projections ahead of week 7, you've got another bottom 5 rushing defense on tap and in the week following. But he's got 29.5% anytime TD probability with 57 yards for Rico Dowdle. Compare that to Chuba Hubbard's 34.0% anytime TD probability. So slightly higher end zone equity there, but just 40.1 rushing yards. Probably going to make Hubbard more of a flex upside guy and hoping that he finds the end zone, whereas Dowdle's probably going to get more workload since we've seen he can absolutely handle an entire RB1's worth of carries. I think they were kind of treating this a little too much, against the Cowboys. He was coming off a great game, but they were acting like it was Emmitt Smith returning to face his former team and not Rico Dowdle, who started, 8 games for the Cowboys last year. But I don't think anybody came out on the wrong side of that situation. Dowdle's now got himself a nice body of work that he could probably parlay into a good contract. Hubbard is probably the biggest loser of this scenario, but it's going to be interesting to see what they have with 2 very good matchups coming up in the next couple weeks.
Yep. Yeah. Eye test to me, Dowdle's electric. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen with it in the long run. Running back is one of the weirdest positions in all of sports, with just the interchangeability, and guys will look like superstars one week and not the next. But for him to back up that first explosive performance with the second one, at least should have everyone's attention. And I think I'm buying it could sustain if they so choose to have it sustain. For my last takeaway here, something I'm keeping an eye on, I want to move to the AFC North, because we, back to previous futures conversations again, have always discussed how our model has held strong that there will be a bounce back for the Baltimore Ravens at some point. Now, Look, Lamar Jackson is out. I have no idea at this point when Lamar Jackson's going to come back, but this has trended so far in the wrong direction for Baltimore. 1-5 on the season now. Coming into this week, reminder, it was even odds between both Baltimore and Pittsburgh, both around plus 110, plus 115 to win this division. Our model had still, even with the slow start, given Baltimore a 51% chance of winning this division coming into last week. I have to imagine Pittsburgh at this point is the favorite. We'll see what the model says on Thursday. But, you look at the NFL standings right now in that division, you've got Pittsburgh sitting there at 4-1. You've got the rest of this division on a combined 0-11 streak right now. In fact, it's not just the records that are misleading in the AFC North, but with the Bengals, Ravens, and Browns, they have 3 of the 4 worst point differentials in the entire NFL. Now, I understand it's quarterback issues, right? Without Joe Burrow and without Lamar Jackson and the change with Cleveland, obviously moving from Flacco to Gabriel, there's a lot in flux. But the bottom line, Pittsburgh's not in flux. They're playing good football right now. They're capitalizing on the fact that there's so much chaos in this division. And, you look ahead right now, Pittsburgh has only played 1 interdivision game. They've got Cincinnati coming up soon. If this division really is going to keep trending where it is, I think Pittsburgh runs away with this. And I'm wondering if it's too late to try and bet them to steal this division.
Might be, if they keep winning, they're not going to get longer odds, minus 190 right now. So the books, who themselves were hesitant to paint them as the favorite, have now obviously gone with that. I feel like with the Ravens, you have to wonder. It's far too early to be talking about shutting down Lamar Jackson, but say he misses another week. I'm not sure if they've had their bye yet. So, depending when that is, that's another week where Lamar isn't playing. Well, nobody is, but, where he's not playing. And then you're like, what is he coming back for? If this team is 1-6, 1-7, what are you playing your franchise superstar, yearly MVP candidate quarterback for? So gonna be really curious to see how this plays out. But I mean, it looks like Steelers are gonna run away, and Aaron Rodgers is getting his final ride, which, depending on what happens, may not be the final ride. And we'll have to hear from him, I guess, all off season. But for now, looking like Steel City, man.
Nothing sounds more miserable than hearing from Aaron Rodgers for another 12 months, but here we are, Dave.
The real Super Bowl champion or contender in Pennsylvania was Aaron Rodgers and the Pittsburgh Steelers all along.
Ugh, brutal. All right, you've got a rant for us here on NFL scheduling.
Oh, yeah. I just got to get this out real quick. The scheduling is insane this year. More international games than ever. Now, 3 weeks in a row, or at least 3 weeks of the season, we have a Monday Night Football doubleheader. There is another one next week. These stink. You either have a game on Monday at 10 p.m., which nobody wants, coming up next week, or 2 games happening at the same time on a Monday, which also nobody wants, because it ruins the primetime experience. The Jags are making their annual trip back home to London this coming week. These teams don't even get to play the Rams. These teams don't even get a bye week coming back lately. Seems like the Vikings got one. They were over there for 2 weeks. They probably didn't even need it. And then you have these teams over there making a 1 week stop. They don't even get a bye. Just like poor football, poor product. I would like this to change. The entire scheduling as a whole is just a jumbled mess.
Yeah. I mean, I'm with you, right? It annoys me. I despise the fact that there's simultaneous Monday Night Football games. That is the worst thing that has happened to my football watching experience in 32 years of life. The European games, I could go either way on. There's a weird sicko portion of my brain that kind of enjoys rolling out of bed at 9 a.m. and there's immediate football on. Now, I wish that they were better football games, because they typically are a sloppy, jumbled mess. And, often we put teams that are worthy of a sloppy, jumbled mess in that game. So I think I'd feel different about it if we were trying to send like the best product teams over there for multiple weeks. It hasn't been that way, at least early in this season. I don't know what the schedule is for the rest of it, but I'm with you on the doubleheaders. Can we please get Roger Goodell to save us from that, Dave? It's too hard to bet 2 games at once.
Yeah, that's true.
All right. Speaking of things that we want to bet at once, let's look back last week and find some things that we should have bet.
Should have bet that.
I'm going to start by patting myself on the back here, Dave. A 3-0 sweep for the college corner. It has been an incredibly profitable start to this season, although we're pretty much halfway through the college football season. So can we really call it a start at this point? But feels like week after week, we're finding value. The model is giving us its best bets. And when I get to put my little personal touch on picking three that I like the most, we've had pretty great success. Texas was clearly the right side. USC steamrolled Michigan, and then Indiana with an outright win as 7.5-point dogs in Oregon. We're cashing those tickets. It's all green, and I've got another college corner coming later this episode. Outside of our college corner, what else should we have bet last week?
First of all, Greg, I have to tip my hat to you. You weren't even on the show last Tuesday, and you delivered for the people. Absolute elite work by my guy to keep the season rolling. Besides that, if you were also watching the Tuesday show, then hopefully you caught the Xander Scuffley plus 1,100 win. He was their model's top probability and best edge. A little shorter than the other winners, but we had him at, I think, fair odds of plus 1,000. So just a little bit of value there. Overcame a first round 71, finished minus 19, cashed our second winner in the past 4 tournaments. Golf model has been rolling really hot to end the season and in the FedEx Cup fall. We won't have it this week as there's no event. We'll be back next week and hopefully staying nice and hot. College football touchdown props were really good on the site last week. I don't have anything here to share with you, but I can confirm they were hitting. I did five of the Tutty Threat high value props as a parlay. Missed one with Jam Miller getting stuffed and down to inside the 5 to come up short in the Bama game. But we posted 3 of them on social. 2 of those hit. So if you're tailing the bets on social, you cash. And like I said, if you see the high value signal alongside the Tutty Threat signal, it's a very strong bet. And one other thing, Tuesday's episode was very good to us because we shared a couple early looks at touchdown value. We had Gibbs and A-Chain with value to score 2+. Devin A-Chain doubles his touchdown output on the week. And similarly, we also looked at touchdown value on Thursday Night Football. Saw Cam Scatterboo with an edge to score twice. He scored thrice. So really good stuff from the touchdown props this week. The Tuesday podcast was pretty much rolling. We gave out 4, 5, 6 winning bets on there, plus 551, plus 1,000, plus Greg's college corner. So all really good stuff there. Please, if you're liking what you see, like and subscribe to this podcast because we're trying to give you guys a nice guidance week to week. And so far, I think we've been doing a pretty good job of that.
Absolutely, we have. Round of applause to us, Dave. I love doing this show with you. All right, there's always a couple things that we unveil on this show that end up in the green, if not more than that. As you can see, we've had some success in recent weeks. Well, it's time to start looking forward because week 7 is here, and we would like to unveil our top week 7 against the spread picks.
The early edge.
For our first, we are looking at Minnesota and Philadelphia, fresh off of a 2-1 week. Dave, what do we like here?
Top overall probability here, 58.2%. Got a 5.4% edge, odds of minus 112, so right where you want your spreads to be. Projected final score of 23-21 in this, 52% probability for the game to go over 43. So very nice, gritty NFC football game here. Eagles reeling from back-to-back upsets, as we talked about. Now they have to go on the road and face a well-rested Vikings team. To be honest, this feels really similar to the setup of Bills-Falcons last week, a team that was coming off rest with a defense that matched up really well against a team in dire need of a win. And look how that went. Better than we even expected, I think, with the Falcons just pretty much rolling that game. The spread never in doubt at all. Vikings have allowed just 10 total touchdowns this year. That's tied for the 3rd lowest mark in the NFL. The Eagles have not scored in the 4th quarter. I talked about this last week. This is still just so crazy to me. I think it's the most telling thing of the team. They have not scored in the fourth quarter in 3 straight games now, on only 14 points scored in the entire second half in that span. If you take out the Rams field goal for a touchdown, they only scored 5 points in that second half or fourth quarter, whichever it was. But this team is just comes out of the locker room at halftime, often with a lead, and just don't know what to do with it. It's really crazy. I don't know if I've ever seen something quite like it, especially for a team coming off a Super Bowl win. Feels like the hangover is just perpetuating throughout every facet of their game. And this is, not the biggest thing I would use to gauge a team, and it's only a singular point, but the Eagles have a negative point differential at 4-2. They're just, I don't know if I would call them frauds because the team is too talented and they just won the Super Bowl, but it's just nothing is gelling correctly for this team. And now here you have the team that's more well rested in a favorable spot at home. Strong probability. I'm all in on this one from the model for sure.
Yeah, I think it's a sharp play too. I mean, I don't know. Not that our model is necessarily a sharp, but quote unquote, by traditional definition, I feel like this is one I would expect the public to be against. And if you are a situational bettor, that is sometimes something you look for. But it's telling. Philly has not been the Philly that is name brand Philadelphia Eagles. I love the fourth quarter stat. And I would just add, those have been close games. Those have been like important drives. It's not like they're taking the foot off the gas. They've been needing to be at their best. They just can't score in the clutch right now. It to the eye test, to me, there are a lot of cooks in that kitchen on offense. I mean, there are a lot of guys that just look unhappy and maybe are outwardly telling you they're unhappy in the post game right now. So much of the talk has been we need to get Saquon back on track. A.J. Brown wants to get back on track. Devontae Smith wants to get back on track. I don't think anyone's happy with Jalen Hurts sort of getting to punch it in every time they get close. There's some egos at play right now. And on the Minnesota side, we think J.J. McCarthy is back. He had that stellar fourth quarter in week 1 all the way back at the beginning of the season. And who knows what he's going to be. But I think at minimum, Minnesota's going to be inspired and be feeling like they've got their QB1 back. I like Minnesota here a lot situationally as well.
That JJ McCarthy 1 quarter feels like a lifetime ago, right? It's kind of crazy. I was like, that was this year, actually. That wasn't when he got hurt last season. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. What was I going to say? One thing about the Eagles, as you were talking. AJ Brown in the post-game presser, there was all the talk about that they had the closed-door meeting for multiple hours, and then they were asking about it, and he was like, oh, I don't know what a meeting. There was no meeting. Like, it's the vibes are just so not where you want them to be on a team that's supposed to have Super Bowl aspirations.
Yeah, no, it's 100% fair. I'm with it. All right, I see my team's logo next. Lions, Buccaneers, some injuries on both sides here, but it sounds like Tampa Bay might just be ravaged on offense here. So 54% Dimers probability that the Lions cover the spread. What do you see?
Yeah, minus 1.8% edge. So you're getting some value here as well. Minus 110 on the odds. Like I have here in the notes, I wouldn't call this a must-win game for the Lions. They're not in danger of falling below 500 or even out of contention here. But it's really one they need to look good in at the very least. If they don't win, they have to be competitive. It's got to come down to the end. Probably them, coming up short or something, not giving up a final score, getting walked off, or frankly looking like they weren't in it for most of the game like they were against the Chiefs. The Bucs are a huge contender, as we've seen. They're no joke. They're for real. The team that they could see in the playoffs or even find themselves in a tiebreaker with for home field advantage or even the top seed in the NFC come the end of the season. So this is not a game you can take lightly. Sunday Night Football just didn't really feel like the Lions were clicking correctly. They pulled out that crazy Jared Goff TD, but that was called back over illegal motion. I also had Mahomes Goff anytime TD at plus 7,000 in that, so I'm sorry about that. Amon-Ra, big drop on fourth down, leads to basically a 14-point swing. And then from there, it just kind of seemed like they were playing catch up and just didn't quite have it. Bucs are really good, but I feel like they're kind of getting away with it a little bit with some of these injuries. Lost their top 2 receivers. Godwin isn't Chris Godwin right now. They don't even have their full running game. Bucky Irving is out at least another week or more. And if Mike Evans isn't back or not even 100%, I like to think the Lions can contain the likes of Sterling Shepard and Tez Johnson. Bucks MVP Tez Johnson.
I mean, that
But
play by Tez last week was sensational. It's like hard. It's hard not to actually give him his props for it, but at the same time, it is Tez Johnson. Like I think he was as surprised as we were that he made that play.
Yeah, which is why he couldn't believe he was getting MVP chance right away. But that's so too funny. But I don't know. It's not the most favorable number here. You're like 4.5. It's kind of a gross number for teams in a bit of a gross situation.
Yeah, it is. I think it's been profitable in the last 3 years to back Detroit off of a loss. They have usually always responded extremely well, even going back to the Green Bay debacle at the beginning of this season. I mean, I can count on one hand how many times they've had back-to-back stinkers in the last 3 years. To your point, that game was weird. It was a weird game against the Chiefs, like the 0 penalties for Kansas City mixed with the trick play touchdown called back. I'm not a blame the officials guy, but I think a lot of life was sapped out of that Detroit team in that moment. And I don't know. I think we might see a lifeless version of Tampa who somehow, some way has just kept winning, even despite not having Mike Evans. This is a team that I love backing. Baker Mayfield's been sensational. But I think, if Egbuka's out, if Evans is out, if Godwin is out, if Bucky Irving is out, I mean, that is their top 4 weapons. At a certain point, they've got to have a total no-show, crash down to earth moment. And the thing I would say too, like you've got to be ready and feel like you're at your best to get Detroit, even if they're a little bit banged up. And maybe that's my cocky ego talking, but this is a Monday Night Football primetime game in the Dome in Detroit. If Tampa feels like they're at like 40%, I think this could get ugly. So yeah, we're 2 for 2 on plays that were already on my card for this week. And I totally see the reasons why.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, you can't be, and I agree with you. It's not your homer nature talking. You just cannot be not ready to play against the Lions. They got the trick plays. They will catch you sleeping. The too many playmakers, simply the running game alone, can just pretty much close the door on any opponent. And in the Dome, it's not going to be easy. Oh, I would like to see a better number here, but I think I'm pretty cool to be in line with this one. The top spreads have been going great. I didn't even mention it, but 5-1 run over the past 2 weeks with the top 3 we were showing on here. So seems like a pretty good thing to do is tail our early value. So getting value and strong probability here.
Absolutely. All right. And now from my team to your team, although we're fading your team, it looks like Washington -1.5.
Yeah, we are. At least if you don't care about value, you'll see there's, I'll pull his banner down, quite literally a 0% edge on this game. It is as fair odds come. Commanders -1.5. So kind of both teams coming off a disappointing week. Feels like an appropriate game to close this out with, given my takeaway about how easy it is to bet against the Cowboys. But you're suddenly getting a trend here that doesn't quite fit either one of them. So it's going to be, anybody's guess how this plays out. Pretty hilarious ending to one of the meetings between these teams last year. Multiple full field stretching touchdowns in the closing minutes. I don't think we'll see something quite like that this year. That seemed like a freak occurrence, but just goes to show that in these division games, anything can happen. And if you're looking at the under in this game, it's never under until it's over at the end of the game. So if McLaurin is back, you get that extra field stretching ability. Jaden Daniels is probably going to carve this team up through the air if he has everybody. Carve them up on the ground. It's a good rebound spot for Bill. Kind of a letdown last week after getting just an insane workload and output in week 5. Gets a 45% TD probability and a 58-yard projection. By far the top in this backfield as he's starting to truly run away with that role. Model is bucking the trend of the underdogs covering in Cowboys games. Like I said, that was on a 5-1 run so far, including the Cowboys as dogs. siding here with the Commanders to not only cover but win by a full field goal. 28-25 final projected score. I don't know. It's kind of an interesting one here. With 0% edge, I'm, less intrigued on just tailing the model outright here, especially because of the underdog trend and the ability for either of these teams to just put up crazy points in this game really leaves it open for anybody. But that does make me want to tail the dog, which is not what the model has here. But really, I think it's just going to be a shootout. This Commanders team let Geno Smith, Michael Penix, Caleb Williams all have some of their best games of the year. Pretty sure 3 touchdowns, no picks for Geno. Michael Penix threw for over 300, I think, in his only game this year. Jordan Love had one of his best games, and he's not been a high-volume passer. So no reason to think Dak Prescott, who's 11 touchdowns and 0 turnovers over the last 3 weeks, is going to slow down here, especially if they get CD back. Kind of interestingly, we show more, not surprised to see CD with more yards projected, but a lower touchdown probability than George Pickens, who can't be kept out of the end zone right now. So all signs point to a shootout. It's probably better for the underdog. Model has -1.5 here, and actually leaning towards the under with the highest total I think we've seen for either of these teams so far, 54.5. Should hopefully be a good game at least, but kind of a toss-up for me, to be honest.
Yeah, it feels like a fair price to your point, right? -115, 0% edge. Although, again, a 54% probability is not nothing whatsoever. As far as taking Washington, I agree with you. This is probably the most toss-up of the 3 best bets for the week. For me, I like Washington, given the situational spot of them blowing that Chicago game. Now, I could make the argument against it too. The same thing happened with Dallas. They lost a game they should have won. And also Washington is on a short week coming off a Monday night game. We kind of briefly talked about this last week, but the one against the spread loser that we had was Jacksonville outright. And that was also a short prep week. So, those are situational things that I do think matter here. For me, there's a lot of moving parts with injuries here. CeeDee Lamb, is he back? Terry McLaurin, is he back? I think I want to wait and see what the rulings are on those guys. Just get as close to the weekend as we can before adding this to my card. But, of course, if one of those 2 is in and one of those 2 is out, it's probably going to move the line. And who knows if this will even be a high probability play at that point anymore. So there's always risk involved with betting, especially early in the week like this. But to me, it's a fair price to start. And if everybody's healthy, I think I probably would play Washington -1.5. Or to our point earlier, where we're constantly looking for ways to fade this Dallas secondary, maybe if McLaurin's out, is this a Deebo Samuel spot?
Probably. I'm real curious. Let me look real quick. Deebo's numbers versus the Cowboys. Not George Kittle-like, but he's probably done just fine. No receiving touchdowns. As long as, according to StatMe, 1 rushing touchdown. So nothing crazy, but, they've only played actually a few times and not since 2024. Totally different role here. Cowboys definitely can't stop a trick play. So if Deebo takes an end around, which is like the most basic of trick plays ever, I think they're just going to be absolutely cooked. Imagine like a Jaden Daniels, Deebo run pass option type of nonsense. Just going to be over. But yeah, I think that's probably the best way to bet this game will be through the prop markets, which we'll almost surely be taking a look at on Thursday with such a high total in this game. Probably going to be one of our storylines of the week.
Yeah. Can we take a look now too? Let's take a look at some early prop
Let's do it. Let's do it. So yeah, here's our 3 spreads before we wrap on this. Vikings 2.5, Lions -4.5, Commanders -1.5. I've got Deebo's numbers here I'll bring up, and then we'll take a quick look at our prop value. I was checking out some NHL stuff, which we'll get into later.
Yeah, I love it, Dave.
Where are we? Commanders, Cowboys. Deebo. So we got Terry McLaurin in here for now until he's ruled out. You'll probably see him, but lower touchdown percentage than Deebo.
Wow,
pretty close in yards as well. think Noah Brown is questionable in this game. Here we go. Just what we need is another Cowboys revenge game for a guy who's not even a starter. But so Noah Brown, 2+ touchdowns incoming.
Wow.
Not really. Please don't hold me to that. Although I'll probably put $2 on it or something.
Yeah, I think it's Debo touchdown for me. I think that's what I'm circling, and you're all hoping McLaurin's out.
Yeah, no prop value up. Probably no markets open at this point, to be honest, or very much so. Won't see anything here, but we'll definitely get into that one very heavily on Thursday's show for sure.
Love it. All right, thank you, Dave. As always, we appreciate it. Dimers Pro is where you need to get all of this information from. We've got you covered. You can get insights for every single game, every single week of the NFL season, and plenty more, every single sport that you can bet. If you can find a market, we've got intel for you. We'll help you find the edge, probabilities, all of that and more. 50% off Dimers Pro with promo code podcast. That's what you need. And it is an exclusive offer to our listeners that Dave and I are happy to bring you. So go make sure that you take advantage of that and jump on board the bandwagon as we get closer and closer to the second half of NFL season. For now, we should also take a look at our fantasy waiver wire.
The fantasy waiver wire.
Yoink. Did we add a yoink there? Is that what I just heard?
Yeah, there's a little yoink sound effect for those who are snatching someone off the wire. As we hope we are guiding you to in this segment week to week. We've had some pretty good touchdowns and performances from guys following our call outs on here. Most of them aren't going to be, sneaky plays that you've never heard of, but hopefully we're giving you a little guidance into how we project a player in the immediate week to come before you have to make your claims on Tuesday night. So I'll pull up what we've got here. We're going to start with the number one overall ad of the week. One who kind of pulled the rug out from everybody who picked up last week's number one overall ad of the week, Hassan Haskins, and that's Chargers running back Kamani Vidal. He's only 31% rostered, and he was the clear RB1 in week 6. Haskins wasn't even in a B role. He was simply giving Vidal a breather with only 6 carries. Vidal looked good with a big workload, 138 total yards on 21 total touches. So really hard to imagine this is going to regress to a more even split. Maybe Haskins gets a couple extra carries because Vidal is good and they want to stretch his health as long as possible. But when Hampton comes back, it's going to be him anyway. So they're pretty much just going to run Vidal out until they don't need him anymore. Projections had their yards just about even last week, but with better touchdown equity for Haskins. So we did have it as more or less a 50-50 toss-up. But it's Vidal clearly rest of the way, at least till Hampton is back. Going to be at least 3 more weeks of that with Hampton on IR, so plenty of opportunity in some key games in a division race. That's going to be pretty tight. Clear RB1 upside here, 12.4 PPR points, 55.2 rush yards, which is more than double we have for Haskins, and 35.9% TD probability in week 7. Kamani Vidal, number one waiver wire ad. If you play in a fab league, I'd probably use 25 to 40%. That's kind of a big range, I know, of your remaining budget, knowing that he's probably just a rental for 3-4 weeks. But it's winning time in fantasy. You might be on the fringe of playoffs. Other running back, Bam Knight for the Cardinals. Kind of similar situation where it's a toss-up, but no one's particularly looking good in a similar running back situation where they've lost both of their top 2 options. But it was Bam Knight with the score in back-to-back weeks, while Michael Carter didn't really do much with a similar workload. Seems to be the choice at the goal line for Bam Knight to get the touches. It needs to be added, especially if you're in need of an RB. Only 6.4 PPR points projected, but that's because he's just neither one has been very productive. He just has the touchdown equity, which we have at 31.7% in week 7. A couple wide receivers here. I'll go with the one who's more rostered, Kendrick Bourne, 36% rostered in league, so pretty widely available. Back-to-back wide receiver 1 performances, exactly 142 yards in both games, so you're not seeing double if you're looking at his stats. He's got clear chemistry with Mac Jones, former Patriots teammate, so you probably got a little connection there. Jawan Jennings was apparently playing with 5 broken ribs in this game. The Niners are just so banged up. They're throwing out guys who should not even be on the field. Pearsall could be back this week, but Bourne's a clear ad. He's got chemistry with Mac Jones, who could be playing intermittently this season, depending on how Brock Purdy's health continues. Projected for 10.8 PPR points, 45 yards, 3.7 receptions, and a 31.4% TD probability. Kind of a dart throw here for the second one. Probably don't even have to add him on the waiver wire, to be honest. You pick him up Wednesday morning for free. But Jordan Whittington on the Rams, he's 0% rostered. The box score won't make you jump to add him, but he did lead all Rams wide receivers in snaps after Puka got hurt. Season high 4 targets and 3 catches, so not much to take away from there, but he did have his biggest output with Puka down. He's likely to miss at least a week before the Rams go on bye. So you're maybe only getting a week here if Puka's back and healthy, but he's at least a solid stash, and if Puka misses more time, you might have the wide receiver 2 in the Rams offense. Right now projected for 7 PPR points, 31 yards, and a 14% TD probability. But Puka hasn't been ruled out yet, so our Sims have some lower projected Puka numbers in there, not his usual output. But I imagine this will go up when he is most likely inevitably ruled out.
Well, Whittington's 0% rostered right now, too. Some of these names, I mean, not that they're not also good names, but this guy's basically available everywhere coming into this week's waiver wire. So this one is a great stopgap. I've already got a claim out for him. I need a receiver right now.
Yeah. And if you're not in like a 14, 16-man league, you probably can't pick him up for free in the morning. So if you're in a 10 or 12 teamer, I wouldn't burn your top priority here, and I would look for one of the other guys and then worry about your needs and probably pick Whittington up as a free agent. But there's a void to be filled there, and wide receivers fill voids with targets, and he should be getting some. One tight end pick here. There's a few out there. I'm just going to focus on one, kind of the obvious guy, Harold Fannin Jr. on the Browns, 27% rostered. That's going up no matter what because David Njoku is probably going to miss a couple games. He's also a candidate for trade, depending on what the Browns do this year, especially with Fannin coming along. He's slowly been getting into this role, but he's been the tight end 1 in Cleveland in 2 games with Gabriel under center, 9 points and 11 points in those 2 games. That's just half PPR as well. Projected for 9.5 full PPR points, 36.8 yards, and a 24.8% TD probability. However, Njoku has also not been officially ruled out, so that is likely to go up if that is the case this year or this week. And finally, one quarterback. I'm pretty surprised he's 32% rostered. Maybe it's because the only league I have Jackson Dart in is a QB Superflex, which the only available QBs this past week were Spencer Rattler, Jacoby Brissett, and guys who were not even starting. So I was surprised to see that it was 32% since I had to pick him up in a spot start a couple weeks ago. But 17 plus points in all 3 of his starts, 6 total touchdowns. Giants are fully committed to developing this young man, projected for 15.9 points, 188.5 passing yards, 29.6 rushing yards, which is really why you want him, and a 21% TD probability on the ground. Need a QB. You got a guy you don't love. Pick up Jackson Dart. You could do a lot worse. They're gonna try and funnel this offense through their young quarterback as much as possible. So there's my guys this week. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 total pickups. Certainly more than this. Our projections hub will have a lot more data than what I can show you just here. So definitely check that out. Every single player, every single week, all the stats, all the touchdowns, all the fantasy points.
You got to love it. Dave, thank you as always. And yes, please add Jackson Dart if he's available in your league. The kid rocks, okay? You heard me just sing Cam Scattaboo's praises as well. The Giants are fun for the first time in roughly 15 years. And if he's available, you should enjoy the ride. All right, it's college football time. Fresh off of a 3-0 sweep, let's take a look at our college corner for week 8.
College Corner.
I'm really wishing we just gave out Indiana money line on this program last week because it was one of Dahmer's best bets. We just went with the higher probability against the spread play. Both cashed along with the other two on the card as we showed earlier. But let's keep the momentum rolling. I've got 3 plays that the model loves for week 8, starting with a big-time rivalry game out west. It is BYU plus 3.5 against Utah. 61% probability, one of the highest that you can find this week. Now, I'm going to say the same catchphrase I say every single week. This is a key number. You get a full field goal from the home team here. 2 teams that I think are nearly identical, 2 teams that are both very fun to watch, rely on running quarterbacks and a great defense. If you are unfamiliar with Bear Bachmeier, trust me, get familiar. This kid is a true freshman. He wears number 47. His name is Bear. And I honestly, to anyone who hasn't watched him, it's going to sound crazy. The player he plays the most like is Tim Tebow when he was back at Florida. I mean, they just kind of use him like this fullback. He runs read option. He runs through defenders every time, and his arm is just way better than he gets credit for. BYU is undefeated coming into this game. They needed heroics from Bear Bachmeier, 2 late drives to score to come from behind last week. He delivered, and then they emerged victorious in overtime with some key defensive stops. I think this BYU team is awesome. They returned so many key pieces from a team that won 10 games last year, and they somehow upgraded at quarterback after Jake Retzlaff left the program to take over Tulane with this true freshman that they've really rallied behind. Utah's very good. This is a high emotional game. There's usually a huge swing in favor of the home team. Getting BYU in Provo here plus 3.5, I think is phenomenal value. Dave, you were kind of making a face when I was talking through Bear Bachmeier real quick. Are you familiar with the Great Bear?
Only from what I've seen this season, following, at least a little bit of BYU's really impressive start. But no, I mean, high praise. Tim Tebow-esque is some high praise. And if you have that for a guy who is leading a good team, that's probably somewhere you want to be, is supporting that team.
It sounds insane. It really does. But I promise you get your BYU ticket, sit back and watch this game, and it won't feel insane after you watch one game of it. Moving to 2 games in my favorite conference here. I'm in the Midwest. I'm always watching Big Ten football. And we're going to grab Purdue plus 3.5 against Northwestern here now. Northwestern is 4-2. They're getting a lot of credit for that Penn State win last week that ultimately got James Franklin fired. I'm wondering how much credit they deserve for that performance. No disrespect, but I mean, clearly this Penn State team was ready for free fall. They had lost to a woeful UCLA team with no head coach the week before. I just don't know how good Northwestern actually is. We have some data points that the answer's not all that good, including the 23-3 loss in week 1 where they lost to Tulane. This Purdue team is infuriating if you have backed them much this year. They're 2-4 outright, 0-3 in the Big Ten. They've lost 4 straight, but they have had chances in every single game. I mean, this team turns it over in the red zone. It feels like 1 to 2 times a game. But one thing that has always been true for me is it better. Teams that are really extreme on one end of the turnover margin are likely to revert and regress in a positive way toward the mean by the end of the season. I think this Purdue team is a prime candidate for that. Their offense moves the ball at will against better opponents. They've hung around in games against USC, Notre Dame, Illinois. They should have won outright at Minnesota last week. Now here they are as an underdog against a Northwestern team where, I'll be honest, a week ago, I think Purdue's favored by 3.5. But Northwestern's getting all the props from beating Penn State. Dimers gives it a 58% probability, almost a 6% edge here. Key football number, give me the Boilermakers. And then last but certainly not least, we'll stay in the Big Ten. It's Ohio State and Wisconsin, and we're going to take a total here. This has already dropped a point from where it was this morning, so I would encourage you that you might want to get it. I think it could keep moving in the wrong direction for us here. But under 41.5, a 56% probability of hitting here. Ohio State's defense is historically dominant. I mean, all-time good, if not for like a very late touchdown given up to Illinois in a game where they were up 30 points last week. They've held every other opponent this season under 9 points in every single game, including wins over Washington at Washington, a win over Texas and Arch Manning. They haven't played cupcakes, and they have just stifled everybody. In steps the biggest cupcake of all the cupcakes. If you've never had a Wisconsin Badger cupcake, go check it out. This team is miserable. I mean, the most obvious thing or the most prevalent thing when you watch Wisconsin football this year is how much their fan base wants their head coach fired. Fire Fickle chants every single home game. This is, once again, a home game in Madison. But reminder, last week, Wisconsin lost 37-0 to Iowa at home. Ohio State's defense is so much better than Iowa's. I mean, this would be a stunner if Wisconsin scores at all. Ohio State, I think, again, just wants to be healthy and keep this season rolling. So I love it at 42 because you get the full 6 touchdowns plus extra points. 41.5 is a key number as it keeps trending in the wrong direction. But for me, I make this total closer to around 38 for the game. I think you're still getting great value, and Dimers agrees.
Yeah, this is crazy, guy. They're 37-0 loss. I'm looking at their recent scores. 10 points the week before against Michigan, 10 points the week before that against Maryland, only 14 against Alabama. Only game they won in what you would call dominant fashion was against Middle Tennessee. So pretty tough. I think you're only maybe worried about Ohio State scoring too many points in this because I don't think you're concerned about Wisconsin's output.
Yep. I think it's totally fair. And look, Ohio State is certainly capable of that, but they've played lower in terms of totals than we're used to seeing as well. As a program this year, they've had 34 against Illinois, 24 against Washington, 42 against Minnesota. It feels like around 42 is where Ohio State can max out individually in a game. Like I said, if you don't think Wisconsin's scoring, I think that's a pretty good number. So there you have it. BYU plus 3.5, Purdue plus 3.5, Ohio State, Wisconsin under 41.5. And my advice personally, get that now before it keeps going in the wrong direction. If you want more from our College Corner all season long, we're getting into crunch time of the college football season. Make sure you subscribe to this show, the Dimer Sports Betting Podcast. We do it twice a week, every single Tuesday and Thursday. Throw us a like, throw us a comment, 5-star rating, anything that you can give us in terms of interaction helps us continue to grow this show as we want to keep bringing this to you for a very, very long time. Let's move from college football to NHL. The season is here. We'll take a look at Tuesday's action in the hockey world. What do you got, Dave?
Yeah, so we're going to try and find some cool ways to mix in the daily sports once we really get rolling here, NHL and NBA. Obviously, we got short turnaround on the days that we record the show, so getting you guys stuff to be actionable that night would be high priority. We're going to try and do that here as we look at some of the later games on the slate, and just going to do a quick little run-through of how you can basically build an NHL goal scorer parlay using what's on Dimers. So I'll share my screen here, pull up our general NHL predictions, and just kind of walk through a couple different parts of it. So this is our NHL props page. You scroll up, this is what it looks like. Looks like pretty much all of our props pages. We've added 2 new markets this year. I believe has been talked about on this podcast last week, assists and points. So we've got our most offerings ever on here. You'll find a ton of goals, lots of value, really fun league to play in with, and hopefully we'll hit some nice lottos throughout the season. But tonight, just real quick, we've got 3 of the worst teams, at least as far as goals allowed so far this season, in action. It's a pretty small sample size. Most teams have only played 2 or 3 games, but the Sharks, Ducks, and Flames all play tonight, all bottom 5 in goals allowed, each of them allowing double-digit goals. So what we're going to do is look at ways to attack those teams using the model's probabilities and predictions. And right off the bat, we've got Pavel Dorofeyev to score an anytime goal. Not only is this get an edge at plus 180, 3.5% value with a nearly 40% probability. Dorofeyev is the only player in the league with 5 goals this year. I believe he has a hat trick. If not, he's been even more consistent, and he's getting the Flames, who are, as I said, bottom 5, 13 or 12 goals allowed this year, I believe. So we'll grab Pavel Dorofeyev at plus 180 here. For the Penguins versus Ducks, there's no prop value here. I think there was one bit of a deep cut. Blake Lizotte, anytime goal, 19.5%. Not one that I'm putting in a parlay, but certainly a good straight value if you want. So what we could do instead is go into our Penguins Ducks prediction. Just look at our anytime goal probabilities here. Pretty even split between Crosby, Russ, and Raquel as our top three. But if you're looking for any additional data points, obviously Crosby is the kid, so you got him there. But Raquel has taken the most shots this year of these guys. He's 8 shots through 2 games, and he's coming off a career year in which he scored 35 goals, close to fair odds at 31.4%. So we'll grab him as well to score a goal. And then finally, we'll go to the last game. Again, no prop value on the props page, but we're just going to go into the game prediction here. And we've got a second data point in our favor, which we'll get to in a second. But Seth Jarvis leads, I think, all players in the entire game. Yep, not even just on the Hurricanes, with a 36.8% goal scorer probability. And if you go to our trends, obviously it's early in the season, so this is accounting for last season's data as well. But he's scored a goal in 6 of his last 10 games, going back to last year. So that seems like a pretty good guy to back against a bottom tier Sharks defense. I believe the worst, allowing the most goals per game so far. And you play them all at at FanDuel, where you'll find usually the best NHL goal scorer odds. You get almost a 20-1 goal scorer parlay here. So that's Pavel Dorofeyev, Richard Raquel, and Seth Jarvis, almost 20-1. I'm going to play this for sure. Hopefully we'll shout it out as a winner on the next episode. But yeah, just one way you can use the NHL predictions. Didn't even really touch all the tools here. We have first goal scorers plus the assists and props. You could use the parlay picker if you want to, do this without any thought whatsoever. You just come here, click it. It'll give you some random props that you can put together. But you use the tools yourself. You'll maybe find a little bit more favorable spots to play.
Love it. All right. A great example of how to use all of the data that Dimers gives you on the site to find creative ways to build bets. We are big parlay bettors here. Obviously, there's risk involved with parlays, but you can do your best to try and mitigate that risk and really find some value by stringing together a couple of our highest edge, highest probability player props and more. It's the same way we build our primetime parlays in the NFL and vice versa. So great example of that. Thank you for the visuals, Dave. Good luck to you throughout NHL season. And we'll have plenty more. As you mentioned, NBA season just around the corner. NHL is ready to go. And we are almost at the World Series. It's a great time to be a sports fan, great time to be a sports bettor. Let's close the show here with what else is on Dimers this week.
What's on Dimers this week?
Yeah, so as mentioned, we got NHL was right back. This is our first full week of the season. There were some weird days off last week. We had something like 14 games, then a day with no games, then a day with 16, then a day with 1. So none of that this week. Might be, I think, 1 game on Sunday, but you got games every single day. Puck line plays from our best bets are seeing the best ROI for the season. Very small sample size, but you're in the green if you are tailing the puck lines pretty blindly. No golf this week. We'll be back next week, as mentioned, for the Bank of Utah Championship, and hopefully we can keep rolling with winners of plus 1,400, plus 1,000 in the past couple of tournaments. The NBA is back next week. We'll probably do a small little look before the season starts, maybe just some futures, maybe a couple general things Greg and I are looking at. But we just cashed a plus 1,300 WNBA future on the Aces to win the finals. Our models are very similar for NBA and WNBA, so I'm sure you're checking out the preseason futures value on the site there. And of course, we've got plenty of NFL Week 7 coverage. And I'm actually just going to throw you guys a little bone here. Just a quick little peek at what is on site for some coverage, some touchdown props that we got, early value. I would not lock any of these in as an official play personally yet. I'm going to watch throughout the week. But as I said, the high value and tutty threat combo has been humming on the site, and you got 3 of them this week with Scadaboo, Jalen Hurts, and Ashton Genty. All really favorable betting odds right here. Not laying any juice on Hurts, which is crazy, actually, that we're at the point where we're not seeing Hurts at ridiculous minus odds. But as mentioned, that team is in quite a bit of flex. So, yep, a bit of touchdown value. You'll find even more, but these are your three double signal guys here. So.
I love it. You're speaking my language. A little teaser maybe of what else is to come as we finalize our football cards on the Thursday episode later this week. All right. As always, this was fun. Dave, thank you for everything you brought to the show today. Thank you to anyone listening to this. Please continue to support the show. If you ever have questions, if you want to know anything, even if you want to ask us, hey, who should I bet next week? Who should I put together for a parlay to find the end zone? Hit us on Twitter. You can hit us in our Discord as well. We'd love to see you in the community. We still do plan to make the show interactive and answer some questions as they start to come through. So keep us in mind. If you ever have any questions you want answered on the program, we'll do it for you. For Dave, for all of Dimers and our great team behind the scenes, I'm your host, Greg. We will be back on Thursday with more on Week 7 and much more.